We'll get started real quick. Not really too much to go over. Luckily, for the most part, weather should remain pretty quiet. Although we do still see some rain chances. Probably not as much as today, but see some smaller chances tomorrow and Saturday, and then a pretty good chance of rain again on Sunday. But overall, the bulk of the impacts for today should be done. Can't really rule out if any more storms. Trying to pull up one more thing on my other screen so I can show everybody if it pops up later. Couple observations. There we go. All right, so thank you again for joining. This is my name's Christopher Bannon with the National Service here in Slidell. This is your weekly weather briefing for Thursday, August 27th. Real quick, first thing off, if you haven't heard yet, we do have a deep partial lunar eclipse expected tonight. I mean, it will occur tonight. Whether we see it is the bigger question. We'll be able to get these clouds out of the area. That is the biggest unknown right now, but we'll get to that real shortly. Newly designated tropical storm Dolly has developed in the mid-Atlantic. There will be no impacts with this expected over the next 7 days locally. And honestly, when you look at it, the Hurricane Center actually has it degenerating before it even approaches the Leeward Islands. But we'll show you where it is, and if I have to, I can pull up the actual Hurricane Center's webpage to show the actual track in there. Slightly less activity expected, as I mentioned earlier, tomorrow and Friday, but we could see a return to more numerous storms on Sunday, especially across the southern half of the area, along the south of the I-10-12 corridors. Not really expecting much in the way of severe with it. I can't rule out a few strong storms, but the bigger possible impact potential would be locally heavy rain. We do have, Weather Prediction Center does have the area under a marginal risk, which will show that in a little bit. Then we have decent rain chances kind of continuing the beginning of the work week on Monday. Not as high as Sunday, obviously, but we really start to see those rain chances back down, and we start to heat back up next week. Quickly looking at the latest radar, as you can see, most of that rain that we had earlier, we had some pretty good storms early this morning, a few severe, a few strong storms, definitely some locally heavy rainfall, especially east of I-55. That said, we did have surprisingly a few damage reports of trees with well below severe level storms across kind of northwestern portions of our area near the Baton Rouge metro. We did get some bad news. We did have a fatality with one tree down just west of Baton Rouge in that area up there. So a few other trees down, but looking around, all the observations showed winds between 30 and 40 miles an hour. So that's kind of interesting from the standpoint that it looked like this outflow boundary did bring down a few trees across mainly that area. However, the biggest impact we really was the heavy rain that occurred during the early morning hours. Try to bring this over to your screen real quick just to give an idea of what the rainfall did look like. It's not going to show that's right because I'm not sharing my screen. I'm sharing the actual presentation. So, but we did have some areas that had rainfall that even approached 6 to 7 inches around southern Harrison County, and then anywhere from widespread, really 3 to 5 inches across a good portion of Tangipahoa Parish and Washington Parish. A lot of heavy rain in Washington Parish as well on the eastern side. With some locations estimated near 6 to 6.5 inches, and then we had a few other areas that tried to approach the South Shore, some Orleans in kind of eastern Orleans, and then kind of northern Jefferson Parish. We did get some estimates of 3 to 4 inches, but really it looks like the biggest rainfall kind of occurred over coastal Harrison County, near the Gulfport area, and then across eastern Washington. And about the southern 2/3 of Tangipahoa Parish. That rain, we have been needing the rain, so that's good. It's beneficial, but if that's the only day we're going to get rain, it's not going to do much for our drought concerns. As for the rest of the day, you can see we do have some redevelopment of showers. No lightning yet across the river parishes. can't rule out a few isolated storms later today across the rest of the area. However, given the amount of activity we had earlier and how long some of those lighter showers persisted and the cloud cover we got, we're just not going to heat up enough. So I have a hard time seeing much in the way outside of maybe 2 to 3 storms this afternoon, late this afternoon. But overall, we should be pretty quiet the rest of the day now. The tropical weather outlook, as you can see on this image right here, there's Tropical Storm Dolly. It is a minimal tropical storm right now. Not expected to strengthen much over the next few days. They do have it going up another 5 miles an hour the next 12 to 24 hours. However, in about 36 hours, the environment's going to it's going to be moving to a very unfavorable environment. And they actually have it explicitly in the forecast showing Dolly degenerating before it approaches the Leeward Islands. That said, there is no concerns from local impacts across our area. As mentioned earlier, that deep partial lunar eclipse, it should begin tonight around 8:20, 8:30. We'll start to see the actual beginning of the eclipse around 9:30. And it should begin to end, it should end around just before 1 a.m. With the peak occurring around 11:12 over the area. The big thing is you look at that satellite image, there is a lot of cloud cover over the area. This obviously is not a loop, so it's hard to tell where those clouds are going. However, they've generally been pushing to the southeast right now. Thankfully, because we had the earlier storm development and it wasn't occurring now in this afternoon. As long as we don't get any more the development, hopefully should see these clouds continue to kind of drift to the southeast, allowing for at least partially clear skies for people to view the eclipse tonight. So if anyone's interested, just get rid of these clouds and should be able to see an eclipse, get a good view of the eclipse to our southeast tonight. Apologize on the bullets. These didn't show up earlier when I was trying to update these, so I'll fix them before I email this all out. But this is the day 4, which is Sunday for the rainfall, excessive rainfall. The outlook area you see right there covers pretty much most of the area outside of southwest Mississippi. Main impact really is going to occur along and south of the I-10-12 corridors, especially across coastal Louisiana. Expecting this is where the bulk of our rainfall, so 1 to 2 inches, kind of widespread across the area with some locally higher amounts. It wouldn't surprise me given how much moisture is available. We could see, some very isolated areas that get anywhere from 3 to 5 inches. As y'all saw this morning, it just takes 1 or 2 storms, kind of just not move very fast, and we've been very efficient at seeing the rain. The marginal risk continues right across coastal Mississippi going into Monday, but not really expecting an awful lot. We'll start seeing the rain really taper off, rain potential taper off late Monday. And as we go into next week, it's looking to be a lot warmer and drier. Your rainfall forecast right here, as you can see, showing over the next 7 days, it shows pretty much the entire area seeing at least 1 to 2 inches. Some little spots in there that are near 2.5, right along the coast and off in the water. You shift that up a little bit to the north, and easily get 2.5 inches across some of the land areas. And again, this is WPCs. It's an area rainfall, so it's obviously not catching with respect to the what we call convection. The thunderstorm really development. So we will see locally higher amounts. And again, it's across mainly the southern half of the area. So it wouldn't surprise me on Sunday that we see a few areas that get anywhere from 3 to 5 inches. Again, it's going to be very isolated, but it's just something to kind of keep an eye on. And that's about the biggest impact over the next 7 days we'll have. After we get into Monday, the rain chances start to go down, especially Tuesday through Thursday next week. We definitely see those rain chances drop and the temperatures start to climb. Looking at that 8 to 14 day temperature outlook, which doesn't kind of include the second half of next week, really. We see high pressure build back into the region, and which is going to bring back the heat. Probably see highs back in the mid 90s, maybe as early as Tuesday, some isolated areas, but definitely Wednesday. And then going throughout the rest of the week into the weekend, may even be pushing heat advisory potential late next week. So just something to kind of keep an eye on. The interesting thing, though, from a standpoint of with the ridge building in, is that if you look at the 8 to 14 day precipitation outlook, it shows near normal. Well, the reason is near normal is because we are, as we get into September, we are approaching what is typically, one of our drier periods. September and October are the drier months across the region. So that's why, even though we see the rain chances begin to drop, it's still near normal because we begin to stop seeing those typical afternoon thunderstorms like we see during the summer. But that's the outlook for the 8 to 14 days. So going into our drought monitor, as you can see, even with the beneficial rainfall we had last week, especially Friday and some other times this week, it still hasn't had a huge impact on our drought conditions, and it has expanded across portions of the area. As you can see, coastal Mississippi and the St. Timothy Orleans Parish is in that D1 drought now. The D1 has been, I think, expanded a little bit across the Florida parishes, and Southwest Mississippi is all in the D1 and even D2 drought still across Wilkinson County and into portions of Emmett. But they've even added a little bit more, I think, of the D0 to coastal Louisiana. So it's just something to keep an eye on, especially as we see our typical rain, drier season approach us. That we're already kind of behind the eight ball with respect to the amount of rainfall that we've seen over the summer. Real quick summary of the impacts. That lunar eclipse tonight again begins around 8:30. The actual eclipse part though starts closer to 9:30, and it should end just before 1 a.m. Fingers crossed we can get rid of the clouds tonight, and so you get a good view of it just off to the southeast. Tropical Storm Dolly has developed in the mid-Atlantic as a minimal tropical storm, but it is expected to degenerate in the next 5 to 7 days, with no impacts locally expected. Slightly less activity expected again tomorrow, and tomorrow is Friday. I apologize about that. I'll fix that as well. Tomorrow and Saturday, but we could see a return to more numerous storms on Sunday. I'm not expecting much in the way of severe weather, but definitely keeping an eye on the locally heavy rainfall potential across the southern half of the outlook area on Sunday. Widespread 1 to 2.5 inches with locally higher amounts. Again, wouldn't surprise me to see some isolated areas approach 5 inches, especially on Sunday. And we do see some decent rain chances still on Monday, but those will drop off precipitously as we move into the later portions of next week.